What's up, Archons? I'm Flightless Pheasant, and now that you're here, let's do something a little bit experimental. But before we get into that, I'm a huge fan of Keyforge, and if you are too, then please like, subscribe, and hit the bell, as I'll be bringing you even more lore from Keyforge and the Crucible. Today, I want to talk to you guys about one of the cycles of Keyforge cards. So, cycles are connected cards in a set that usually appear one to each house, although sometimes they all appear in the same house, that have a connected theme or ideology. I really enjoy these cards because they tend to be great examples of giving us some of the lore of the setting in the form of cards. You'll understand a little bit more what I mean when we get into it, but today I want to focus on the Shard cycle that came out in Age of Ascension. These are 7 connected artifacts, each of which has an action that gets stronger the more shards you have. But what's really interesting for me is I like the insight that these particular cards give us into each house as part of their name and flavor text. So that's what I wanted to focus on. But I didn't want to stop there because this only includes the Age of Ascension houses, the original 7, and doesn't include any of the new houses that we've gotten since then. So I may have gone out of my way a little bit to try to create the missing 5 shards. And I'll talk about those ones too when we get to the end. But if you guys really like stuff like this, I want to do more things with original art and original cards and some ideas. But you gotta let me know if this is a really fun one. Because it did take some extra work, and I had to get some art made and some things like that. So tell me what you think when we get this all done. I'm particularly fond of this cycle of cards. I didn't play a ton of Age of Ascension, but I heard about these, and the more I got into these particular cards, the more I just loved them. For me, the name of each shard seems to represent how the other houses of the Crucible view the members of that house, which is a good externalization of how the other people think about them. And the flavor text, which tells you what the shard is forged from, seems to be a good example of how the members of that house actually are, or more particularly, what fuels or drives them to be what other people perceive them to be. We'll keep that in mind as we go through the different shards. And I'm kind of going to go through them relatively quickly because there's not a whole lot to say on each one individually, but I do want to give each of the original 7 their own spotlights so that you can see how this all works. And then we'll get into the 5 that I put together, and at the end I'll have some credits for the artist and the engine that I used to create these cards. So without further ado, let's talk about it, and I want to see if you guys see what I see in these cards. First, we have the Brobnar Shard, Shard of Strength. This shard, when its action is activated, gives a friendly creature a +1 power counter for each friendly shard you have. It also says that it's forged from joy, which I just love. House Brobnar projects this very imposing image of strength, but behind it all is just their love of a good time. I really like this one. I think it does a good job of encapsulating both how other people view House Brobnar and how House Brobnar views itself from the internal perspective. Next, we have the Dis Shard, Shard of Pain, which, when its action is activated, deals 1 damage to an enemy creature for each friendly shard. And this one says it's forged from curiosity. Again, this is a great encapsulation of House Dis. Externally, they are seen as these bringers of pain and suffering, but for them, it's all about discovery, curiosity, and the cost of discovering new and dangerous things. Next, we have the Logos Shard, Shard of Knowledge. When its action is activated, you draw a card for each friendly shard, and it says it's forged from desire. This is also really great. So the desire to understand, to know, to see new things drives House Logos' search for knowledge. Without that desire, without that passion, there is no discovery. Then we have the Mars Shard, Shard of Hate. Its action stuns an enemy creature for each friendly shard, and it says it's forged from fear. Mars is a house that's all about Mars only, and absolutely spends incredible effort hating on anything that isn't Mars, but I like to know that in universe that hatred is fueled by fear. A fear of anything different. A fear of losing their culture and their identity. I think House Mars is one of the more fascinating houses, and I think this card does a great job of encapsulating both the way they project themselves as strong and how actually timid they really are. Then we come to the Sanctum Shard, Shard of Hope. As an action, this shard allows a friendly creature to capture 1 amber for each friendly shard. This one says it's forged from confidence, which I really like. The idea that all of the hopeful optimism that House Sanctum projects out into the world really just comes from their own self-assuredness, their own ability to stand and say, I believe that things will be better, is just an amazing encapsulation of their philosophy. Next we have the House Shadows Shard, Shard of Greed. This shard as an action lets you gain an amber for each friendly shard, and it says it's forged from courage. I like this a lot too. House Shadows gets a really bad rap, but in truth, it's just a bunch of people doing their absolute best and rewarding each other for doing exactly that. Now, in fairness, they're also mostly thieves and shysters, but thieves and shysters with a lot of gumption. And then as the last of the original 7 shards, we have the House Untamed Shard, Shard of Life. And it says, as an action, you can shuffle a card from your discard pile into your deck for each friendly shard, and says that it's forged from instinct. This is also a really good encapsulation of House Untamed. Life, and all that it brings, is a result of instinct, of what is natural to us and comes without difficulty. I like this for House Untamed, and it's a good wrap-up to the original 7. Okay, so you get what I mean, right? The name tells you what other houses think about them, and the flavor text tells you where that comes from internally within the house. Okay, I've kept you in suspense long enough. I'm going to show you the 5 shards that I had put together for the houses that have come out since Age of Ascension. P.S. I didn't do a Skyborn shard since we haven't seen enough of that house to really get a good understanding of how other people think about them or how they think about themselves. So this is going to be limited to Geistoid, Equidin, Saurian, Star Alliance, and Unfathomable. Are you ready? Let's go. First, I have the card I put together for House Equidin, Shard of Wealth. As an action, it allows you to steal an amber for each friendly shard. And it says it's forged from selfishness. I really like this for House Equidin, because I feel like it projects this air of sophistication and wealth, but all of that comes from being able to take and give to others. This shard might on the surface seem like a better version of the House Shadows Shard of Greed, but it only is better if your opponent has amber for you to take. If ever at any time your opponent doesn't have enough amber for you to steal from them, then all of a sudden Shard of Greed starts being better again. And I think that really works for House Equidin. Tell me what you think, though. Next, I have the Geistoid card I put together, Shard of Anger. As an action, a player discards the top card of their deck for each friendly shard, and it says it's forged from sadness. This is a good one for Geistoid, I think, because they are all about the garbage coming back in this angry motif, but if you look a little bit further, you find that most of them just want a friend. You can see this in a couple of the Geistoid cards that come out, but I really think that all of that anger, all of that hate is just sadness, just a feeling of being displaced that they're trying to fix inside of themselves. Next, I have the House Saurian shard I put together, Shard of Safety. As an action, it allows you to ward a friendly creature for each friendly shard, and it says it's forged from experience. There's hardly a house that projects more of an image of stability than the ancient House of Saurian. But all of that stability is a result of having more time on the Crucible than anyone else, and has allowed them to build this massive structures of cities and bureaucracy that wouldn't be possible without all of that experience. Now I have the House Star Alliance shard that I put together. Shard of Kindness. As an action, it allows you to exalt an enemy creature for each friendly shard. And it has the flavor text, Forged from Optimism. I like this one for Star Alliance, because Star Alliance to me always feels like they're just a little too optimistic for their own good. And I think that this particular shard encapsulates that fairly well in a way that's not detrimental to the player. With the idea being that how Star Alliance is so optimistic that they'll hand out amber to others without realizing the danger that that puts them in. It's a sort of almost self-destructive or target-destructive kindness. And last, I have the House Unfathomable shard that I put together. This shard is called Shard of Zeal, and as an action, it enrages an enemy creature for each friendly shard, and says it's forged from isolation. House Unfathomable is a very fanatical house, with a devotion to their dark and mysterious gods. But it's a devotion they likely wouldn't have if they didn't live so far removed from all the other houses of the Crucible, deep in the ocean, with little to no contact with anyone else. I hope you guys had fun with this video. I know I certainly did. I reached out to an artist to put the art together. Her name is Black Sapphire, and I went to a website called customkeyforge.github.io to put the cards together. So if you want to make your own cards, you can absolutely go there and check it out. It's a free resource, and it was very helpful. I hope you guys liked this. If you've got any comments about the cards, please leave them below. And if you want to see more stuff like this, give it a like, a subscribe, hit the bell, and send me a comment so that I know you enjoy this sort of thing so I can put more of these together. I definitely want to talk about the remaining cycles in Keyforge, or at least the ones that have heavy lore implications. So let me know that you're excited about this, and we can go on this journey together. But other than that, I'm afraid that's all I have for you today. Until next time, later, Archons!